Doctors told Emily her daily smoothie was healthy, until she collapsed at 3 a.m. The culprit? A common fruit hiding a deadly secret. By the time she woke up in there, her life had changed forever. Emily Carter loved her morning ritual. A thick, sweet smoothie with bananas, her energy boost before work. She'd been doing it for years, even after the dizzy spells started. Just stress, her doctor said. But last Tuesday, the room spun violently as she reached for her blender. Her left arm went numb. Then blackout. The ER doctor's voice cut through the fog. Your potassium levels are through the roof. That healthy banana habit? It's spiking your stroke risk overnight. Emily's hand trembled against the hospital sheet. How could something so innocent do this? Emily's vision blurred as the doctor slid a lab report across the table. Her potassium levels were 5 times the normal limit. Bananas are packed with potassium, he said, tapping the chart. For most people it's fine. But your kidneys aren't filtering it properly. Every smoothie was pushing you closer to a stroke. Emily's stomach dropped. She'd eaten bananas every day for a decade. Recommended by fitness influencers, labeled a superfood. Now her mouth went dry as the doctor added, if you'd waited another week, you might not have woken up. Down the hall, a monitor beeped in a steady mocking rhythm. She thought of her husband, Mark, still asleep when she collapsed. Had she kissed him goodbye? She couldn't remember. The doctor leaned in, voice low. We got lucky this time. But if you ignore this next time, he didn't finish. Emily's phone buzzed, a notification from her wellness app. Don't forget your morning banana. She nearly laughed. The irony was cruel. Her healthy life was almost the death of her. And the worst part? She'd recommended this routine to her sister, her friends. Had she poisoned them too? Her hand shook as she dialed Mark. 1 ring. 2. Pick up, pick up. Mark's voicemail greeting played, cheerful, oblivious, before the beep cut in. Emily's throat tightened as she left a shaky message. Something's wrong with the bananas, call me as soon as. Her words tangled when a nurse rushed in, gripping a new chart. Your EKG's unstable, she said, slapping a warning sticker on Emily's file. We need to stabilize your heart rhythm now. Before Emily could react, the crash cart rattled in, electrodes cold against her chest. A resident muttered hyperkalemia to the team. A death sentence if untreated. The floor burned as potassium-lowering meds hit her bloodstream. Outside, thunder cracked like the universe laughing at her healthy choices. She stared at the ceiling, replaying every smoothie, every proud Instagram post. #clean-eating. A machine screeched, her heart stuttered. Stay with us, Emily, someone shouted. Darkness nibbled at the edges of her vision. This is how I die, she thought. Not from some rare disease but a damn banana. Then a jolt. The defibrillator slammed her back into her body. Gasping, she grabbed the nurse's wrist. My sister, she eats them too. The nurse didn't let go. Give me her number. Across the room, the TV news flashed. Local woman's near-fatal reaction sparks FDA probe into potassium overload risks. Emily's face, pale, terrified, filled the screen. The hospital room door burst open as Mark rushed in, his face pale with panic. I heard the news on the radio while driving here. What the hell is happening? Emily tried to sit up but wires held her down. Machines beeping wildly as she grabbed his hand. They're saying this might not just be about me, she whispered, voice raw. The doctor thinks some people's bodies can't process potassium properly, a genetic thing maybe. And no one's warning them. Mark's grip tightened as the TV showed a clip of a morning talk show discussing Emily's case with the Chiron. Could your morning smoothie kill you? A nutritionist on screen shrugged. This is extremely rare. The channel suddenly cut to static. Emily's monitor flatlined for 1 terrifying second before stuttering back to life. That wasn't the TV, Mark said slowly. The power in this whole wing just flickered. Down the hall, angry voices erupted. A nurse ran past yelling. They're saying we need to pull all potassium IVs immediately. Emily's doctor stormed in, flipping her chart open. New development. Your lab work shows something we've never seen before. Your cells aren't just overloaded. They're mutating in response to the potassium. The heart monitor spiked again as Emily realized this wasn't an accident. Someone had engineered these bananas, and she'd been eating them for years. The doctor's words hung in the air like a death sentence as Emily's mind raced. Mutating cells? Engineered bananas? Before she could process it, the hospital lights flickered again, this time staying off for 3 full seconds. When they came back on, a man in a black suit stood at the foot of her bed, holding a badge Emily didn't have time to read. "Mrs. Carter, you're being transferred to a specialized facility immediately," he said in a tone that brooked no argument. Mark stepped forward, blocking the man's path. "Like hell she is." But 2 more agents materialized from the hallway, their hands resting conspicuously near their waistbands. The heart monitor's beeping became erratic as Emily noticed the doctor backing away nervously. "We can explain everything," the suit continued. "But you must come with us now. This goes far beyond your potassium levels." Just then Emily's phone buzzed, a text from her sister. "Men in suits just took all my bananas. What's happening?" The lead agent's eyes flickered to the phone, then to his partner's. Emily saw the silent communication. They hadn't known about the sister. As the agents moved to confiscate her phone, the fire alarm suddenly blared, sprinklers activating across the entire floor. In the chaos, Mark grabbed Emily's 4-pole and swung it at the nearest agent, shouting, "Run!" as hospital staff and patients began stampeding toward exits. Emily's bare feet hit the cold floor just as she heard the first gunshot. The gunshot's echo still rang in Emily's ears as Mark dragged her through the chaos of the evacuating hospital, her bare feet slipping on wet tile from the sprinklers. People screamed all around them as they ducked into a supply closet, Mark's hands shaking as he barricaded the door with a mop bucket. "What the actual hell is happening?" he whispered, pulling out his phone only to see the signal dead. Emily's hospital gown clung to her skin, the fabric soaked from the sprinklers as she struggled to breathe through the pain in her chest. Somewhere down the hall, heavy footsteps approached, methodical, hunting. Then a voice crackled over a radio. "Subject and accomplice last seen heading toward west stairwell." Emily's mind raced. Why were they calling her a subject? Mark found a pair of scrubs stuffed on a shelf and helped her change quickly, his fingers brushing against the angry red scar from her emergency 4 line. As he tied the scrub pants, something metallic clattered to the floor, a USB drive taped to the inside of the waistband. Before they could examine it, the closet door shuddered under a powerful kick. "We know you're in there," a mechanized voice called through the door. Mark shoved the USB into his pocket and pushed Emily toward a ventilation grate just as the door exploded inward. Emily caught one glimpse of black tactical gear and glowing red optics before Mark boosted her into the ductwork, screaming, "Go!" as she crawled blindly into the darkness. The last thing she heard before the duct turned sharply downward was Mark's pained grunt and a voice saying, "Take him alive, we need the tracker." Then she was sliding, falling, tumbling into the hospital's basement with only the stolen USB drive and a terrifying realization. This wasn't about bananas at all. Emily landed hard on a pile of dirty linens in the hospital basement, the impact sending sharp pain through her still weak body. The USB drive dug into her palm as she struggled to her feet in the dim emergency lighting, the sounds of shouting and footsteps echoing through the ducts above her. A distant alarm wailed as she stumbled past rows of industrial freezers labeled biohazard, her bare feet leaving damp footprints on the concrete floor. The USB felt like it was burning a hole in her hand as she spotted an old computer in the corner of a staff break room, its monitor still glowing with a screensaver. Her fingers trembled as she inserted the drive, expecting some grand revelation, but instead finding just 3 files. A spreadsheet titled Harvest Logs 2023, a video file labeled Subject for Interview, and a single text document that simply read, "There in the seeds." The video showed a man in a lab coat interviewing a gaunt patient who kept repeating the dream started after the 3rd dose, before suddenly screaming and clutching his chest as his skin visibly darkened to a sickly yellow hue. Emily's breath caught when she recognized the fruit basket beside the hospital bed, overflowing with bananas marked with a tiny blue sticker identical to the one she bought every week. The spreadsheet scrolled endlessly with columns of codes and dates, but one name jumped out: Gold Crop Hybridization Project Phase 3. A noise from the hallway snapped her back to reality just as the computer screen flashed red with a warning. Remote wipe initiated. She yanked the USB out milliseconds before the entire system crashed, but not before catching one last line on the screen. All test subjects must be contained before neurological symptoms manifest. The door burst open behind her as she dove behind a supply cart, realizing with dawning horror that whatever was happening to her body, it was only just beginning. Emily's heart pounded as she pressed herself deeper into the shadows, watching through the slats of the supply cart as two armed guards swept the room with flashlights. The USB drive felt like a live grenade in her clenched fist as she noticed the guards' uniforms bore the same logo from the files, Goldcrop's twisted stalk of wheat emblem. One guard kicked over a chair, his voice gruff as he radioed, "No sign in the break room," moving to sublevel 3, while the other paused right by Emily's hiding spot, his boot just inches from her trembling fingers. The stench of bleach and sweat filled her nose as she held her breath, realizing with sudden clarity what the files meant. The bananas weren't just dangerous, they were deliberate biological carriers for something far worse. As the guards finally moved on, Emily scrambled toward the service elevator, her mind racing with fragments of information: seeds, neurological symptoms, test subjects. The elevator doors opened to reveal a blood-smeared control panel and a single crumpled lab coat inside. She jabbed the garage level button, but the elevator instead plunged downward into unauthorized territory, the lights flickering as it passed sublevel after sublevel. When the doors finally opened, Emily found herself facing a nightmare. Rows of hospital beds containing emaciated figures with yellow-tinged skin, their limbs restrained as 4 bags of amber-colored fluid dripped into their veins. At the far end of the chamber stood a familiar figure, Mark, strapped to a chair with electrodes attached to his temples, while a scientist adjusted a machine labeled Neural Purge. Before Emily could move, a hand clamped over her mouth from behind as a voice whispered, "They're using the potassium to rewrite DNA, and you're their perfect success story." The USB drive slipped from her fingers as she was yanked backward into darkness, the last thing she saw being Mark's eyes snapping open, glowing faintly yellow, as he mouthed 2 terrible words. "Run! Now!" Moral lesson. The story reveals how blindly following health trends without understanding their origins can have devastating consequences, and how corporate greed often hides behind the mask of wellness. True health requires questioning what we consume, both physically and informationally.